serve together at the World Center.
Oh, no way. No way. That's wonderful.
I've been thinking about him. What a strange coincidence.
Well, I'll get into contact with you and maybe share his contact information. You guys can connect.
Okay.
So were there any reflections that we came about, kind of any written ones? And if you would like to share, please don't feel as if you have to.
You know, I wrote, if I may, I wrote something on the chat, and then when we went to the breakout rooms, it just disappeared because
Oh, no.
I didn't have a piece of paper. But what I can try to say what I wrote. I was talking about this issue of helping. Part of the reflections that I saw during the devotions was helping poor people. And this is something that is becoming more, I'm becoming more and more uncomfortable with. Because the idea of helping poor people, okay, first of all, in my work, I'm in Africa right now, and in my work, I'm here to help poor people. But the idea is that there is a group of people who have, and there is a group of people who don't have. And in most cases, the group of people who have are from the Western or from the developed, so-called developed countries, which are mostly white. And those who don't have are from the poorer countries of the continents of the world, like Africa, which are mostly Black or people of color. But my reflection is this: why is it that the world cannot look into? For example, I give the example of a farmer in a country like Kenya who grows coffee, but cannot afford a cup of coffee, cannot pay for a cup of coffee. Whereas everybody in the Western world or in the rest of the world is enjoying coffee. Why is this farmer not able to produce coffee? It's because the price of coffee is determined by those who are consuming it from the rich countries who already have. So why not? And then we come in now to help these poor people who have toiled all year round and cannot even send their children to school or pay their medical bills, whereas they have toiled all year round. And then another example I gave is I said, what about, I've been seeing, African Americans dying because of the pandemic, and people are going into African American communities trying to help. And I'm saying, but why not look at affordable wages so that people can, with dignity, take care of themselves and provide health insurance for everybody? Why should I stay and wait until I'm in need and then somebody comes to help me? Because it diminishes the person. It does not uplift the spirit of this person. Whenever you are helping somebody, you are diminishing that person. You are not uplifting that person unless you do it like Abdul Baha would do, with so much love and so on. So this was a reflection that I picked out from the.
Go ahead, please.
I think, thank you so much. Is your name Ndele? Is that correct? Yeah, that was just beautiful. I think this example, or these examples, because they really point out the importance of the oneness of humankind, that we really need to embrace this, that all human beings are one family. And if we do that, really, if we have that in our heart, we will change the systems, because the economic system and the political systems that we have today are fundamentally unjust. So, and you were able to describe this beautifully with these examples, because we need these examples to make it concrete. And I think with the topic of climate change, it's the same thing. It's people of color, indigenous peoples, poor people who are suffering first, and rich people. Both rich people in the developing world and in the developed world, they contribute the most to the greenhouse gases that change the climate. So I think thinking about how to promote that consciousness of the oneness of humanity will bring us along the path of sustainability. But I want to see hear others.
Go ahead, Mrs. Pearson.
I also had the same thing as Christine. Sorry, I won't show my video. Hopefully next time I would in pandemic mode at home. Anyway, I also have same thing as Christine said, raising the consciousness of our oneness in looking at spiritual solutions to our problems. That's the only way. We have to elevate the spiritual dimension of our lives to be able to take care of most of our material conditions. But in practical terms, I also looked at some things that I've been reflecting on, even outside of this class, but also reading the book Echo. Oh my, there's so much in that book that would, want you to get talking and, changing things. Involvement in all the parties to finding the solution. So we're trying to find the solution, for example, plastics, the pollution of plastic, but the people producing plastics are not on the table. We are emphasizing recycling and, the manufacturers are not on the table. Something as simple as that, and why are we not looking at it like that? Or we, in a pandemic, why are people still going to the hospital and incur so much hospital bills, and the government is giving out the stipends for pandemic and cannot take care of hospital bills in a pandemic? Something a government should take care of, right? Change our habits and practices, something as simple as that. To me, that's what is really getting down to how much plastic am I really using at home? How involved am I? If I change, I give this example. For example, where we complain about the pollution in the seas, and one of the major things that pollutes our seas is this large cities of villages of recreation that we have developed, a habit of going on cruises. We are literally taking series on a movable series and dumping on the seas. Why, if we change our mode of recreation, we can see how that deals with that right away. I can say I'm going to do a recreation that does not produce that. So I'm not going to cruise, for example. I think about long-term implications. So educate children will change the future. I can plant trees, that's good. But if I educate children, I've already educated change a couple of generations ahead. That's fine.
Go ahead, Mrs. Pearson, please.
Hi, I wanted to just first respond to the initial question, reflections on the world's religions and wisdom traditions. I think what was fairly outstanding was the remarkable overlap and consistency in messages regarding humans' role or roles as creation caregivers, living aligned with the natural order rather than pillaging, damaging, and trying to dominate it, and living in a way that allows for the deep consideration of the consequences of our actions, I think that was very evident in the passages that were shared with us at the beginning of this session today. And I certainly agree with the points that have been raised already regarding actions. So I'm not going to belabor that. I've already instituted a lot of changes or actions in my own life. I've also been a vegetarian now for most of my life and a vegan. So living more lightly on the planet obviously is really important. But I wanted to add the word, you know, we have long heard about the 3 R's, and I think the first R before those 3, reduce, reuse, and recycle, has to be reverence. So if we go about our daily life and all the choices we make, the choices to buy, to share, to travel, how we consume, how we interact with others, how we interact with our planet, reverence should be at the forefront.
Beautiful.
Could I say something? Hello, Martin.
Or,
Oh, hi, how are you? I'd like to sort of reply to my brother who's in Africa. He was talking about basically the inequalities. I'll basically say it in one word: it's a relic of colonialism. Mm-hmm. Why a man in Africa who toils the soil is not able to enjoy the fruits of his labor. I'd like also to refer to the ongoing COVID pandemic. The impact of COVID-19 pandemic has become a social and economic disaster in many countries who are grappling with climate change related disasters in the middle of a devastating pandemic. As these climate change related disasters increase in frequency, intensity, and variability, countries in Africa and the Caribbean are increasingly bearing the brunt. So what are we going to do? There's so much talk, but there's a need to move from rhetoric to reality. Perhaps we could articulate possible solutions to the effect of climate-related disasters on people in vulnerable situations, and also to address these challenges. We also have to ensure that the effect of COVID-19 and the increasing frequency of climate-related disasters, more particular in Africa, the Caribbean, and small island and developing states, does not result in leaving people from these affected countries and communities behind. Yes, we have the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals, which I do not believe will be achieved. And we also have Africa Agenda 2063, which speaks in terms of the Africa we want. There's a need to make connections amongst the various development frameworks which exist. For example, the Paris Agreement, Agenda 2030, the Agenda for Sustainable Development Goals, and also the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction and the Samoa Pathway. I believe the most guiding question which we have to ask ourselves here today is how can Africa and the Caribbean countries develop and implement policies and programs to strengthen preparedness, build resilience, reduce forced migration. The issue of migration is very, very important. A lot of the migrants who are dying in the Mediterranean seas are actually from Africa, and also reduce disaster risks as part of the decade of action and delivery for the Sustainable Development Goals. And also there's a need, what can the international community do to support African countries, the Caribbean, and also the small island and developing nations? What can they do in terms of capacity, knowledge, access to the latest science and technology? Because we're left behind in Africa and the Caribbean for the latest science and technology, and also financing instruments. We shouldn't always be taking our begging bowl to the international community and we're being charged, we're being penalized. There's a need for us to develop and implement multi-hazard and multi-sectoral disaster risk reduction strategies that should include climate and pandemic risks, amongst others. Now, this is all part of ensuring that Africa is not left behind, and also other developing countries. We cannot keep on begging, coming to the table of our colonial master and being left outside the door. The time is now, and there's time for change. Thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful.
This was also beautiful. We may only have a minute or two left, but are there any other reflections or thoughts? I know we mostly went around and got pretty much everyone, but were there any other thoughts? Please go ahead, Christine.
Just one thought. You know, I think in our conversation we brought up the issues, and I think that is the most important thing, that we speak out the truth and the reality and spread the knowledge, and have a, like, because there's so much misinformation these days and cover up of underlying injustice. We need to point out the injustices, and what we have done in our conversation, bring these examples, and build on finding the reality and the truth of our situation as humanity, and then apply the spiritual teaching. So we need both the knowledge and the science and the ethical teachings of all the world's religions, and working together to address them.
Yes, that's a good idea if I could answer to that, because I'm currently zooming in from the United States of America, although I'm not originally from the United States of America, I'm from the United Kingdom. There's so much inequality here in the United States. There's so much racial, social, and justice inequality. The pandemic has revealed the difference between the haves and the have-nots. The United States Constitution is based on one nation under God. Does that include the Black man? Does that include the Native American? Does that include the other people in the minorities? I, for one, believe that the church in the United States, especially the evangelicals, they should step up to the plate. They should come out and state their social justice program. You'll notice at this particular point in time, they're very, very quiet. The evangelical church is not coming out and speaking, following the biblical imperative to love thy neighbor.
I agree with you, but I think we need to return to the main session, unfortunately. I think I would have loved to talk with you all for a long time.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.